Alright, today we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite card games, Bohnanza. It's a pretty easy game to learn, but the strategies involved have some serious depth. I honestly can't get over how geniusly crafted it is. Anyway, today I'm going to show you how to win this game. So Bohnanza is a game of economics, and numbers are really at the heart of everything. With that in mind, however, I found it's a lot more important to treat this as a social game. You need to optimize your bean harvesting to win, but at the end of the day, it's the player who's best at trading and working with, not against, their opponents who usually wins. So there are two key strategies that hand in hand work in this game. First one is getting the best bang for your buck, and the second one is just being really good at trading, and trading a lot. It's a lot like return on investment, or ROI. I got my undergrad in business, so I can't help but look at this from like a financial standpoint. ROI, simply put, is a measurement of how much money you make based on how much money you put in, or how much money you spend. So for example, if you spend $100 on ads and you make $200 back, you just got $2 for every dollar you spent. Not bad at all. Bohnanza works the exact same way. Only in this game, you're planting beans instead of spending money, and your return is coin points at the end. This all comes down to harvesting your beans at the right time. Obviously, the longer you hold on to beans, the more money you make. But note that the ratio of coins you make per bean is a better ratio, the higher your plot gets. Better ROI. So let's use chili beans as an example. At 3 or 6 chili beans, you need to get 3 cards to get 1 coin. However, it only takes 2 more cards to go from 6 to 8 chili beans, so that's 2 cards for 1 coin. Better ROI. Once you're at 8 chili beans, you really only need 1 card for an additional coin. So that's only 1 card to get 1 whole coin, and that's a really good return on investment in this game. This also means it's generally not a good idea to cash in your beans when you're in between harvest levels. For example, if you harvest chili beans at only 7 and not 8, you didn't gain any additional coins, and it actually costed you more than 3 cards per coin, which is pretty terrible for chili beans. And I'm also not saying you should only go in beans that have a really high return per card. For example, cocoa beans, where you literally get 1 coin per card no matter what. Every bean is really valuable in this game. The rarity and the return on investment for each bean is really well balanced. What I'm saying is you just want to get as close as you can to getting 4 coins per harvest, regardless of the bean. With that in mind, don't think of this as a hard set rule. It can commonly be worth harvesting below 4 beans if a better bean is available for trade. And what makes for a good bean when you're trading? Well, it's a good bean if A, it's something you've already planted, in which case you don't actually need to harvest. B, if it's a less competitive bean. So in other words, nobody on the table is planting that one. This means that you're more likely to get good trades later on because you're not competing with somebody else for that specific type of bean. And finally, it's a good bean if it aligns with what's in your hand. Since you have to plant that first bean in your hand, it's really nice to have a plot that's already set up with the right bean. So if you have a bean in your hand you're going to have to plant, and you see a bean up for trade, that's the same bean. Sometimes it's worth the trade, even if you have to rip out some beans that aren't quite fully maxed, so that when you start your turn, you've already got a plot that's available to you to use. And by the way, you might be wondering if buying that third plot is a valuable strategy. I personally hardly ever get a third plot. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but most of the time when I see people buy a third plot, they usually break even. So since that plot costs 3 coins to buy, usually by the end of the game, they've made back about 3 coins. If you do decide to buy that third plot, the earlier the better, because the sooner you buy it, the more use you'll get out of it. And don't ever buy that third plot if you're already on the second round. Anyway, now that we've talked about ROI, let's talk about trading. Trading is what's going to take your game to the next level and help you win a lot more frequently. This is why it's a social game. This is why you need to be liked, so people will be willing to trade with you. So thinking back to ROI, if you've got best bang for your buck, and now that you've got some good return on your investment, good return on the cards you're planting, what's the next thing you're going to want to do? Invest more so you can make more. Or in other words, plant more beans so you can make more coins. And trading is really the only way that you can plant more beans than your opponents. Think about the mechanics in the game. You can only plant a bean in 3 different circumstances. 1, out of your hand at the beginning of your turn. 2, out of the draw deck on the second phase of your turn, which by the way is frequently beans you don't actually want. And 3, when you trade. Now everybody is going to plant when it's on their turn. That's out of your control. However, trading is in your control. If you're able to trade more than any other individual on the table, you're planting more beans than anybody else, and you're on course to win. This means that bad trades are okay. I've seen people say, I'm not gonna give up my cocoa bean for that blue bean because blue beans are way more common. Why am I gonna give them this really rare cocoa bean? If that blue bean benefits you, go for it. Because if they net 1 coin and you net 1 coin, both of you stayed tied just as if you hadn't traded, but the rest of the table is now behind the both of you by 1 coin. And if you go on trading like that with each opponent around the table, you start to get the picture. So to give an example, say you make 1 trade with each opponent throughout a round, and each trade profited both players 1 coin. So Mr. Pony over here just made 1 coin with the blue bean you gave him, and you made 1 coin with the green bean he gave you. Then maybe Mr. Lion over here just made a coin on a soybean you gave him, but you got a green bean, and that gave you 1 more coin as well. Finally, you gave Penguin a cocoa bean, profiting him 2 coins even. But it still profited you a coin because he gave you a green bean back. You just planted 3 green beans, and each opponent only planted 1 each. You now have 4 additional coins and are way ahead of everyone, even with that kind of brutal trade you made with the Penguin. He who trades the most comes out on top. That's the way this game works. Obviously, it's not always as simple and straightforward as this example, but it illustrates how impactful trading can be. If you trade more, you plant more, you win more, and get everyone to, well, hate you more. So there you have it. There are my tips on how to win Bohnanza. I absolutely love this game. I highly recommend playing it. If there's anything that stood out to you or any strategies you'd like to share, please let us know in the comments. And as always, if you loved this video, subscribe. If you hated this video, subscribe anyway and tell us why you hated it. I don't know.